Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another day of NDI November. Um, we are going to be doing shows all throughout the month of November, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all the way up until Thanksgiving. So definitely continue watching. I wanted to talk before we get into our shows for today. We actually have some schedule changes. I have the entire schedule here on the slide here. But the big changes are actually going to be on the second slide here. Next Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, we will be joined by Jeremy Morris from VizRT to talk about TriCasters and their role in the world of live production systems. And then next Thursday, we will be joined by Mike Bergeron from Panasonic. There was a little bit of a scheduling conflict. He was supposed to go today, but we will be rescheduling, and that will be next Thursday, same time, same place, just next Thursday. So without further ado, let's get into the shows that are going to be happening today. And first up, we are doing a system integrator spotlight where we had Shannon Shearer from Peak Media join us to talk about a case study with Comcast, and we had Derek Barilski join us as well to kind of talk about all of that. And Jim Bask hosted that, so we will play that for you now.
Hey, this is Jim with NDI November. I want to thank another repeat guest for joining us here on the show, and that is Shannon from Peak Media. Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me back.
We love that all of our fans of NDI November keep on coming back to join us. And I'm super excited about some of the content that we're going to talk about today because Peak Media has been doing a lot in the NDI world. And you have a really interesting case study to present with some of the work that you were doing with Comcast West. Before we get into that case study, and I promise your audience it's going to be worth your time, let me take this opportunity to have Shannon introduce herself and introduce Peak Media and the great stuff that they do.
Yeah, so Shannon Shear with Peak Media. We are a small AV integrator distributor, and we are located out of Denver, Colorado, have been doing this for just over 25 years and have just loved the flexibility that NDI has allowed us to be able to incorporate into our workflow and solutions, the affordability of it, and just all of the great features. So it's been fun to be part of this with you guys and just kind of talk a little bit more about how we are using NDI for our customer solutions.
Shannon, I love the humble brag talking about how you are a small AV integrator. You might be a local AV integrator, but some of the projects you're working on are really not quite small at all. And I think that's one of the exciting things about the NDI world is that you can really scale some of these production solutions and installations to give you a hybrid, a remote workflow, or everything in between. And that's where Shannon is going to introduce us to a couple of guys that you've worked with at Comcast West. Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. So Comcast approached me to help them develop a solution to reduce the excessive costs that they were spending by outsourcing their production to external companies. And so when we looked at their internal team, they had the creative expertise, they had the production capabilities to manage it all in-house. They just needed some guidance from me as to what hardware solutions they would need to bring on site that would allow them to bring that production in-house and benefit from all those savings. So it was pretty early on in the discovery phase where it became clear that building the solution around NDI was the right approach for a couple of reasons, but mainly because what they were trying to do was support the entire Western region. So it wasn't just that they were bringing it in-house into their headquarters, they were actually trying to expand that and bring in all of their satellite locations. So we looked at cameras from Panasonic where the NDI capabilities allowed them to remote into all of their cameras for control, video feed, audio, as well as provide power. And then we use the VizRT TriCaster because of its ability to bring in numerous NDI sources, but also that it just has really incredible production capabilities with the mixed effects, graphics, and that they could really engage their end users with what the TriCaster allows them to be able to do. So we were very pleased with how everything turned out, as the solution enabled Comcast to, at a very low entry price point, to be able to take that in-house, save that significant amount of money, but it also gave them the ability to manage their local hybrid and remote meetings in an efficient manner with complete creative control, and just really taking that production value to the next level. So with that being said, this project would not be nearly as successful as it has been without the expertise of two incredible gentlemen at Comcast. So I would like to introduce Derek and Justin, who have made everything work together and just really added their expertise as well to the solution. So Derek and Justin.
Hey guys.
Thank you, Shannon. Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Doing really well, Shannon. Thank you so much for introducing us to the team over at Comcast. You know, it's always exciting when we get to talk to our system integrators like Pete Media about the interesting projects that they get involved in. But it's even more exciting when we get to hear from the people like Derek and Justin who are using the equipment themselves. So the fact that you invited Derek and Justin to join us today to kind of show off what they're doing at Comcast West, I think this is going to be a tremendous value for our audience on NDI November. So I'm really excited to meet you guys. Derek, thank you for joining us.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it, guys. My name is Derek Barilski, and we're going to give you a brief overview of how we use NDI in our corporate live event productions here in the Comcast West division. Hope this overview will give you a little bit of guidance on your own NDI network and workflows. At the end, we'll be happy to share this deck as well as answer any questions you may have. Once again, my name is Derek Barilski, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Justin Salvia, who is our technical director and broadcast producer. Together, we make up the live event broadcast and productions team for the Comcast West division. We are coming live from the live event control room here in Denver, Colorado, and here we produce a variety of events. But these generally include virtual events, which are NDI-centered remote productions, integrated Microsoft Teams, TriCaster, and RTMP streaming to Vimeo. We do hybrid events, which are multi-cam events from our first floor event space, controlled on the fourth floor control room where we are right now. We do remote hybrid events, which are multi-cam events, remote Western Comcast sites, with all NDI sources sent back to this control room for broadcast. Now I'll dive in a little bit more on each of these sections here. So our virtual events. We bring all NDI sources into the TriCaster vision from a virtual Microsoft Teams green room. We cut between speakers, content, custom graphics with our NDI production workflow. We also have a dedicated graphic design team on site here that develops event-specific graphics that provide creativity and uniqueness into every broadcast. We implement various multi-boxes and layouts for panel discussions. We handle all video playback through the TriCaster vision. We also deliver the final program via RTMP live stream to Vimeo, ensuring high quality, low latency for our virtual attendees. Additionally, we manage attendee chat and polls, copying any of the questions back to the Microsoft Teams green room here. Now for our on-premise events, we broadcast a live in-person event simultaneously to a virtual audience. This dedicated infrastructure ensures high-quality, streamlined hybrid production right here at our West Division headquarters. These multi-cam events are located on the first floor of our building, control room here on the fourth floor. Each camera is NDI enabled to send sources back up to this control room here. This includes 3 PTZ cameras, as well as 2 additional cameras that are connected to NDI converter boxes. For the local audio mix, the A1 mixes locally for both in-room show and the broadcast simultaneously. We do a main out of the mix to the room. Now, a broadcast mix is also implemented here with an audio aux bus channel sent to a new TechSpark encoder and back to the room's TriCaster for broadcast audio. The in-room tech here includes a 45-panel 1.9 LED wall with a Novastar video splicer. We have 2 TriCaster Minis controlling the in-room screens for LED wall and projection. Both TriCaster Minis have access to all of our NDI sources on our network. We have 1 Spark that displays a return feed, confidence monitor feed for the in-room presenters. The A1 operates the Allen Heath SQ5 for simultaneous in-room and broadcast audio mixing. And we then stream the final program from the TriCaster Vision via RTMP to a Teradek Prism, which then delivers our feed to Vimeo. Chat questions are then also shared live with the in-room presenters. We can also broadcast from any West Division regional office or location that has access to our enterprise network. We have a local crew on each site that deploys on-site NDI-enabled equipment, sending all live audio and video signals back to our Denver control room here. And we cut the show and it's broadcasted out via Vimeo. Our remote sites are multicam events located on Comcast regional sites, Texas, Washington, Minnesota, Colorado, and California. Each camera is NDI enabled and sends the source back to the control room here in Denver. This includes 3 PTZ cameras as well as 2 additional cameras, usually with NDI converter boxes. A1 mixes simultaneously in-room and broadcast audio mixing. And again, audio aux channel is routed to the Denver control room via an NDI Spark that's connected to our network. Some of the technology we use for these events: TriCaster Mini, we actually ship it out to each location for each event. And that TriCaster Mini then has access to all of our NDI sources. We utilize multicast NDI server for this. Coordination is key between the TriCaster Vision in this control room and the TriCaster Mini on site. Both TDs need to be in sync for video playback and any other show flow things that we need to make sure go well. One of the NDI Spark decoders also displays the return feed and for the confidence monitors for the in-room presenters. And then again, NDI-enabled PTZ cameras allow for full remote control and tally from our Denver control room. We also stream the final program from the TriCaster Vision, RTMP to Teradek Prism to Vimeo. However, none of this would be possible if it wasn't for our Discovery server. The NDI Discovery server is essential for making this entire workflow possible. The NDI Discovery server is strategically hosted on our company-wide enterprise network residing in the Potomac National Data Center. Remote login provides flexibility to activate this service instantly regardless of our location. As long as we can VPN in, we can connect to this server. Comcast's robust enterprise network serves as the global backbone, enabling us to connect all NDI sources worldwide. The Discovery server also lets NDI signals easily cross subnets within the enterprise network. And all sources on our NDI network are available to anyone with access to the server and a connection to our enterprise network. So I have a quick diagram here. Here you can see the Discovery server enables complex workflows to function across different network segments. Since the sources are on subnet 1 here and the destinations are on 2, the server allows them to find it and communicate with one another, effectively acting as a bridge across the subnets. So Colorado serves as our West Division headquarters for this and is a central operational hub for our NDI network. The lines here connecting Colorado to these 5 other states, Washington, Oregon, California, Minnesota, and Texas, illustrates a seamless, low-latency communication achieved by leveraging Comcast's robust enterprise network. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
We are always excited to share some exciting stories like that with our NDI November audience. It is one of the reasons why we put these shows together. Derek, thank you so much for sharing your workflows there out at Comcast West. You know, one of the things that I really love that you talked about is how you're doing these remote production, virtual and hybrid productions, and even the on-prem productions using all of those same NDI sources throughout all of these different applications. Shannon spoke about in her intro how you were able to put all this together at a very affordable price. I think that the price point comes from just the true flexibility that it gives you, where you didn't have to build 4 different workflows for all the different things you're doing, right?
Yeah, you know, with the help of the Discovery server and just how we're connecting all of our NDI sources together, it really, as long as it's NDI enabled, we can connect it to our workflow and do high quality productions here from Denver. It's really robust and amazing what we can do here.
It really is. It's absolutely awesome. Thank you again for sharing that workflow. I do want to bring Shannon back to thank her for giving us the introduction to these great guys at Comcast West. They really have some powerful production tools out there, Shannon. Great job.
Thank you. They really do. And like I said, they are two very talented individuals who have really been able to take the technology and figure out a great workflow and how to make it work for them. So we're very grateful that they're willing to share that with your audience today.
Absolutely. And as Derek and Justin shared, if you have questions about their workflow, you can feel free to reach out to them directly. If you're looking for an NDI solution on your own, you're in the Denver, Colorado area, you'd like to work with Peak Media, you can reach out to Shannon and her team at peakmediainc.com or at 877-728-7325. And Shannon, for those in the area that would like to meet you in person, we can send them to the AVX Expo next week, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're so excited. The AV Expo is as strong as ever, and it's just kind of a mini NAB type environment that's held here locally where all the major manufacturers come, showcase their equipment. You get a really great one-on-one opportunity to speak with the manufacturers, not in a busy, crowded setting. And so we'd love to have you guys come out. And if you want to reach out to me in advance, I can take you around and show you some of the NDI solutions that we've talked about today.
That's excellent. Shannon, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of NDI November. Stay tuned. We've got more all week, all month long. NDINovember.com. One registration gives you access to all of this great content and more.
That was a great interview with Shannon from Peak Media talking about a case study with Comcast utilizing NDI. You know, when we have a lot of our guests on our shows, if they're not in our studio, we are ending up using a lot of the same technology that the folks over at Comcast are. And it's just really great that it is so easy to get into an NDI workflow. And they talked about how it's cost effective as well. So just a great case study from Derek and Shannon. Next up is an interview that I did recently with George Burchell from Epiphan, talking about their Epiphan Pearl systems, and then also talking about their brand new camera that they just announced. So we will play that interview for you now. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another segment of NDI November 2025. This is our 6th year of doing NDI November, and we are super excited to be here. And today, we have a very special guest, George Burchell from Epiphan, to tell us about their Epiphan Pearl systems and their entire ecosystem. How are you doing, George?
Great, James. I didn't realize you've been doing this since 2019. That's the same year that we put out our first NDI product.
What a small world. So yeah, we
Yeah.
have been doing NDI November for 6 years now, and every year we are putting out better content, we're getting more people to watch, and we are just spreading the word about how amazing NDI is.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a lot better now than it was 6 years ago. And
Yes.
I'm a lot more excited about it now. I was excited about it when it came out, and then it felt like it took a while. And I don't know what you're hearing on your end, but we're seeing a lot more interest in NDI this year specifically than we have in years past. People who never would have looked at it last year are suddenly going, okay, I think it's ready now. So there's some maturity, it feels like.
I 100% agree. You know, NDI is evolving. We're on NDI 6.2 right now. There are audio coming into NDI. You know, it doesn't take as much space, as much bandwidth on your local network. The latency is really coming down, but you're still getting that quality. Yeah, no, I totally agree that this year we specifically have seen a huge uptick in NDI and just workflows that are built around an NDI workflow.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so George, why don't you take a minute here to introduce yourself to our audience as well as Epiphan?
Sure. So I'm with the marketing team here at Epiphan, and I've been with this company a long time, about 10 years. So I do remember those first days of NDI, and a little bit of background about who we are as a company. we started out in these really mission critical video capture environments. So for example, we have products aboard the International Space Station. So this is where someone really cares about capturing video, obviously. And we also have products in underwater environments. There's a company called Under the Pole, and they use us to capture video that they're, exploring the bottom of the seafloor with these ROVs, and they use our equipment to capture that video. And what you'll see is that, sorry, I've got another slide there. All of these companies, they really, really care about capturing video, but now that same mentality has shifted in a much more broad sense in that we're all over the planet in different kinds of spaces. And these spaces are not underwater, and they're not necessarily in space, they're in spaces in your community around you now. So think of your, the co-working space down the street, or the churches, or the event spaces, and the classrooms, and the community centers. All these people are trying to capture video. But the difference is that they want it to be reliable and they want it to be automated. And that's why, James, I'm thinking about like this moment now, these kinds of customers that are running the council chambers, that are running the event spaces, they wouldn't have touched, and in my view, they were kind of scared about NDI 6 years ago because it worked most of the time.
Yep.
And our customers, they just want something that works all the time. I don't know if it's 99% reliability, but it's not like 89%.
No, I completely agree. And, we're talking about event spaces and things like that, where we're seeing a huge uptick in NDI is in a lot of these like corporate offices as well. Really, getting these, Teams meeting or Zooms meetings to look as professional as they can. And I think that part of this is happening because of Epiphan and making it so you can very easily get a couple cameras into a Pearl and then be able to have a very professional looking meeting call. So I think that part of the reason that NDI is expanding is thanks to Epiphan.
Yeah, we're definitely a part of that world for sure, and reliability has always been our calling card,
Yep.
but we're at the mercy of these protocols, So something like SRT, we've seen the same journey, SRT being used for remote production, and now we're seeing that maturity come through with NDI, which is great as well. And I can give a little bit of background about what we do. We create hardware, which a lot of people here might be familiar with. We're really known for our Pearl family of encoders. And all of these encoders let you capture, record, and stream video simply. So there's a lot of ways to record video. There's a lot of ways to stream video, like using PCs and using software or using other vendors. But I think the difference on the Epiphan side is that our products tend to be a little bit more easy to use and more reliable. So we've got our Pearl family. We've got capture cards used to convert, HDMI and SDI signals into USB. And then we have a suite of cloud software that lets you manage all of this hardware really easily. And we'll get into a little bit more about that today. But I think the easiest way to explain our NDI journey is just to focus in on the newest member of the Pearl family, and that would be Pearl Nexus. So, you'd know this better than anybody, James. This has been a big product for us here at Epiphan for the last year, where it's people installing this hardware, usually in a rack, and they want it to just capture video all day long. So that's the bread and butter of this thing. Just capture, record everything, and then send that content to where it needs to go. So
no, I couldn't agree more, especially being able to put these in racks in just classrooms, in houses of worship, in corporate spaces, in event spaces, like you said, anywhere that you want to be able to reliably record your content, the Pearl Nexus is perfect for you.
Yeah, and a lot of our products are used by people who they themselves, they may be the operator of it, they may be in there pushing buttons, but often they're not actually wanting to sit there and babysit it. They just want to put it in place and kind of program it, have it work, have it live on the IT infrastructure of the place that they work at, but they don't want to have to sit there and twiddle knobs and fuss with it. So this is a very no fuss kind of set it and forget it equipment. So that's maybe a little bit of where we sit in the industry. There's other great products that do all the great knob twiddling kind of side of things that let you do more production. If you need lightweight, easy to use equipment, that tends to be where people come to us. So how these work is, you've got a piece of hardware like a Pearl Nexus. It could be any of our other Pearl systems where you can connect your HDMI, SDI, USB signals, and of course, NDI signals, bring them into this hardware, and then you can do a nice looking production. So these screenshots here that we're showing here are the kinds of layouts and switching that you can do with our products. So we see a lot of people doing really great looking productions out of our Pearls, of course. And of course, then you need to figure out where you want to send that content. So we're very agnostic in that way, in that we'll work with your YouTubes and Facebooks. If you need to do Zoom and Teams productions, we have tools that allow you to get your content nicely into there. And then content management systems like Panopto. And then lastly, your control systems. We tend to play in that space where people are using control systems because they're set up in meeting spaces or event spaces where they have all kinds of control going on. So we work well with QSys and Crestron and things like that.
I think the recurring theme that we're going to see here is at the top of the slide, you see that the Epiphan pearls in general play nice with everything. And you explained that perfectly. You can send to CMSs, you can send to RTMP destinations, you can send to SRT destinations. You really have the ability to play nice with everyone. It doesn't matter what your workflow is.
Yeah, that's something like we strive for, because one of our hallmarks is to be agnostic. And we want you to be able to show up that, like, if you show up at some event and they come to you at the last minute and say, oh, actually, we have an extra input we want you to capture. Can you record this as an ISO as well? Or they say, we've got an audio feed coming from this mixer over here over XLR. Can you guys figure that out? And because you have this breadth of inputs on this device and ways to send content, you can kind of configure it any way you like. It's very malleable. We often talk about it like it's a Swiss Army knife because it works so well with everything.
Yep.
And now we're seeing that kind of mindset around NDI too, and that you can send NDI to so many different places and do more with NDA. You talked about audio coming into the mix too. So it's kind of a nice confluence of NDI's philosophy and ours all at the same time.
No, absolutely. And, there are still a lot of places that are using hybrid workflows. So, they may want to have, a Pearl Nexus on the network and bring in an NDI feed from a different room. But in that same room, you still have options to bring in HDMI inputs, SDI inputs, USB inputs. So you can really have, and we just said this, a workflow for every kind of situation, and the Pearl Nexus will fit in it.
Yeah, and all of our pearls, it's funny, like we did an event a couple of weeks ago, which we'll talk about a little bit, where we had to bring in all these cameras within this different space, but it was a mix of NDI signals and a mix of connected cameras over HDMI.
Yep.
And of course, you can do that. You just have to play with the latency on all these things because they come in at different times. But that's the kind of scenario that we like to imagine our customers are walking into, where they're mixing and matching different signals at different times. So fun challenges to solve, but you can kind of get it all done with our pearls. And then
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, one other like hallmark and thing that we like to think about is the automation of everything.
Yep.
So we allow scheduling of recording, scheduling of streaming. You can have all that content just kind of manage itself. So that's why we tend to use the word automated a lot. That's what we're seeing from our customers, and it's what they're looking for.
Yeah, you mentioned a few minutes ago about being able to make this a plug-and-play system. I think especially in a classroom environment, you don't want to have the teacher worrying about, oh, is my system going to record my class? Is it going to send it to whatever CMS or LMS system that we have in place? You want them to be able to set it up once, schedule the recording or schedule the streaming, and then the teacher not have to focus on their switcher, but instead focus on whatever their subject is that they're presenting to the class.
And honestly, James, that mindset is the same for every one of our customers, whether they're capturing a classroom or they're doing some live event or it's the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter what the scale of the event is. If it's your job to record it and if it's your job to stream it, you are going to be very nervous if something goes wrong. Like it's your head is on the line. So we get those calls from people and they're doing really tiny events, but they care really deeply about that. So it doesn't really matter. Of course, like in those classroom environments, you do have people who are trying to do things at scale where they don't have time and space to
Yep.
manage every classroom when they have 100 rooms. So that's where we tend to talk about our cloud management side of things, because if you have 3 rooms or 10 rooms or 500 rooms like some of our larger higher ed institutions, you can't really afford to be having to walk around campus and go to these different spaces and make sure everything's working, and you can't really afford to have to take care of that much. So our cloud lets you log in and see all of your devices and see the health of those devices and make sure that they're all streaming and they're all recording and they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing. And usually they are, but things do go sideways. People unplug things, microphones stop working.
Yep.
Stuff goes sideways. So we just want to make sure we give everybody a nice strong dashboard where they get to see all of their devices.
Yeah, I bet you make a lot of like IT people in these buildings feel real nice because they can just use Edge to control and monitor all of these devices instead of, like you said, having to go into each one of these offices or breakout rooms or whatever, wherever they are, because you can just control them from one centralized place. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, we tend to be pretty popular with the IT folks, not usually at first because sometimes it's hard to introduce a new appliance or a new device into an
Fair.
IT world. They say, can we put this on the network? And the answer is usually like, let me look at it and let me see it. But ultimately, once we get into an institution or a corporate environment, they tend to like our devices because A, they're not Windows based. And Windows-based products can do a lot of things. They're amazing, but they're also doing a lot of other things at the same time, like they're running Windows.
Yeah.
And there you have Windows updates, which can cause things to go a little bit sideways. We're seeing a lot of this right now with the Windows 11 changeover, and Windows 10 has gone EOL. There's a lot of people who have workflows based around Windows that tend to be higher maintenance solutions.
Yeah.
So we're getting a lot of calls right now of people going, I hear your stuff just works all the time, and it doesn't require any Windows config, so that's an IT-friendly solution as well.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that it's making it easy. Epiphan makes it easy to live stream. Epiphan makes it easy to record. Epiphan makes it easy to play nice with everything, whether it's output or input, and that is great. Now, I am going to plug something a little bit that, to the eagle eyes, they may have noticed on my podium here, and I also believe behind you there, is Epiphan has some pretty exciting news that are hot off the press. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we just announced this. So this is very fresh. This is the EC20 PTZ camera, which has entered the world. And this has been a long time coming, where people like our Epiphan ecosystem because they've got cloud and they've got this hardware, which makes it really easy for them to manage things. And when they want to call somebody, they call us, and they like our support team. So that's been a big story about who Epiphan is. We have products that just work. And they would say to us, like, do you have an NDI bridge? We're like, no, we don't have that. Do you have a matrix? We want to do our switching on that. Do you have cameras around that? So now we have a camera that can work beautifully with our Epiphan equipment. And the other nice thing about this camera is not just that it works so seamlessly with everything else that we do. It has the same DNA of what we're known for, in that it's really, really well built. This is an incredibly nice camera. And if you look at the pricing on it as well, you're going to compare it to other products in the same pricing category and realize that it's probably the highest spec camera for the money right now. So we're getting a lot of calls about this. I know this is a new domain for Epiphan to be seen as a camera company, but it does seem to dovetail nicely into the other virtues that we like to hold up so high.
No, absolutely. You said having the entire ecosystem. So you already have your cloud management, you already have your switchers on-prem, and you have your capture cards. But now you're just adding one more element to keep everything in the same family of products. And we're talking about support as well. You don't have to worry about, okay, if the camera feed's not coming in, now I got to go reach and talk to this other manufacturer. All of this can be handled in-house with Epiphan's amazing customer support. So I think this is great, and we're really excited to have this camera on the market as well.
Yeah, me too. And I'm excited just to use it, actually. It's a really nice camera. It's 4K. It does NDI, of course, which is why
Yep.
we're here today. So in fact, when I send out the new Road Kit, like we go to a lot of trade shows and we set up a little tabletop display, just like we were talking about you guys at NAB New York last couple of weeks ago. So we used to send all of that over HDMI cables to make that work, because that was the easiest way to use our technician's time or the salesperson's time who was at that show. Now we do that over NDI, because NDI has gotten simple enough and reliable enough that you can just pack it up in a box and unpack it and set it up, and it's just there working for you all the time. So this camera is a big part of that now. So you'll see us when you see it at these shows. We're always going to be talking about NDI. We're going to be talking about this camera. And we want you to push it. We want to hear your questions. We want feedback from people about the quality of this camera, because I think it's really going to hold up when you look at it closely.
Absolutely. We have one in our studio and we've enjoyed using it and just playing with it. So I couldn't agree more. You mentioned the ease of just being able to plug the camera into your network and it just showing up and it just working. And NDI is at that point now. And sometimes these events are going to be mobile, so you just set the camera to a static IP address, and then your Pearl system will always find it at the same IP address. So yeah, no, absolutely. And if you saw some of the workflow diagrams from our booth at NAB, yeah, NDI really came in clutch, being able to have cameras from all around the booth coming into different products, encoders,
that's cool.
decoders, switchers. So absolutely, NDI just makes things super easy.
Yeah, it does. And we're also going to be talking about this camera as from a sales point of view. It's very convenient as well, because people can buy a tidy bundle for what they're trying to do. We have a lot of customers who will build podcast studios or corporate studios where they have maybe 3 cameras and a Pro Mini setup, and that's kind of your studio in a box setup. We'll also see, of course, lecture capture bundles and event streaming bundles where it'll come with a Pearl Nano and a camera as well. So the advantage here is really it's cost effective. There's really good value behind these. There's some pretty steep discounts on the camera when you buy it in a bundle. And then of course, just the convenience factor to buy everything you need in one go. So keep an eye out for that. You'll see this being promoted on all of the places that you buy Epiphan things.
Absolutely, and we look forward to seeing more information on these bundles as well.
That's great. And then there's one other story which I always think about when it comes to NDI, and that is the whole remote production side of things, because we know NDI has good hooks there, and that's been a hallmark of Epiphan for a long time too, where we have a lot of customers who are producing content in a place that they are not themselves residing. So they're either connecting multiple studios together. And I like to tell the story of our friend Tim, who does production with Talon AV. So this is Tim, where you typically find him behind a desk at an event where he's managing a bunch of gear, and he's of course a big Epiphan customer, so he has a lot of Pearl systems used to capture and record and stream content. But he also sent us this picture one day where he's on an airplane, and this is his stack of gear on the left that he's managing, and on the right he is doing some lightweight production from the airplane Wi-Fi just to make sure things are okay. So he's pretty reliant on our cloud infrastructure. So I like to think that maybe he adopts these cameras as well, and he's got cameras, he's got Epiphan, and he's got the Pearls, and he's got the cloud, and he can do all of this from wherever he is at the time, because he's kind of sometimes a one-man band flying around the country trying to do these different events.
No, absolutely, and I think this is a great example of a real world use case. And absolutely, you can have your NDI cameras connected to your Pearls on location, and then be able to control your Pearl from anywhere in the world. It's all part of this AV over IP ecosystem. And again, Epiphan just makes it super easy, and everything just plays nice with each other. So yeah, no, we're really excited to see these cameras in those workflows and be able to talk about more case studies just like this.
Yeah, me too. It's good. It's a fun time to be at Epiphan right now.
All right, George. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I always like to, when we have a guest on the show, to give them the last word if you want to talk about anything, so long as it doesn't get you in trouble, of course. Any new and exciting things that are coming out, or just the last word.
Well, thanks for having us, for one thing. We always like that you do this. You put a spotlight on NDI and all the cool things that are coming out around NDI. So it's fun to see what all the other vendors are doing at this time. So thanks for that. And if you want to keep an eye on us, check out our socials right now, because there's a lot of content coming out around this new camera. And try it out and let us know what you think of it. We'd love to hear your feedback on it and how it's going to work in your NDI workflows. So thanks very much for watching, everybody.
Of course. And if people do have questions, absolutely feel free to reach out to us, 800-323-2325. And as that lower third said, make sure to tune in all month. We will have videos all throughout the month of November on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Thanks again, George. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, James.
Thank you to George for joining us for another episode of NDI November. That brand new camera and those bundles are available. And if you want to get some more information on the camera and the bundles that are available, absolutely feel free to reach out to us at 800-323-2325. That is all that we have scheduled for today, but we do have lots of more content coming up over the next 2 weeks. I'll give you a quick rundown. Just a reminder that next Tuesday has been schedule change to have Jeremy Morris and Gary Batan joining us for VizRT on Tuesday the 11th at 3 p.m. And then on Wednesday the 12th at 10 a.m. we will be joined by Laurent from Netgear. He's also on the NDI advisory board, and Jim McLean from Matrix. Next Thursday, we are rescheduling to do our Panasonic show, so definitely stick around for that. Somebody actually talked about earlier, asked before we started streaming today, if there are camcorders out there with NDI built into them, and there are, and Panasonic is one of the manufacturers that does offer NDI HX capabilities in some of their camcorders. So if you want more information on those, highly recommend checking out that show next Thursday. Then on Tuesday, the 18th, we will be joined by Dan Mial from BirdDog to talk about their new PTZ cameras that were just announced at NAB. Very cool stuff. And then also on the 19th, Wednesday the 19th, we will have David Doku from Canon to talk about their PTZ cameras as well. And then on Thursday the 20th at 10 a.m., we will have our NDI Advisory Board Roundtable, where we will be having several of the NDI Advisory Board members joining us to have just an open discussion and Q&A about all things NDI. And that is also when we will be announcing our prizes. So if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn right now, make sure you head on over to NDI November, because only the people that are registered at Crowdcast at ndinovember.com will be entered for their chance to win some of our great prizes. So definitely very excited. Lots more to come with NDI November. We will see you next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Until then.